All right, so what we're doing today, we are looking at foiling stuff again, that same idea of multiplying binomials together. But we're going to look at a couple specific situations where we can apply a shortcut to it, where we can get our answer a little bit quicker. Okay. The shortcuts that I'm going to show you today work great. So one of them saves a lot of time, the other saves a little bit of time. And if we ever forget them, we can always fall back on foiling because it'll still get us that same answer. This just allows us to do a little bit quicker. Okay. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to just FOIL these two problems for me. FOIL those two, and we're going to use those to kind of talk about our shortcut. Hey, go ahead and check for somebody said they got the same thing.
That's right. I almost did that too, actually. Okay.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Regina, tell me, what did you get for the x plus 6 here? Emily?
X to the second power plus 12x plus 36.
Okay, good. How about for x plus 3 here, Tim?
X squared plus 6x plus 9.
Great. So we FOIL it, we get there. Okay. We're going to look for a shortcut here. I'm going to give a general form of it over on this side. Before I do that, I want to think of a different way that we might see this same problem. What's another way that we might see this same problem? Gibby?
We do x to the second power plus 2y.
We can't combine it quite like that, though. But what we could say is something like that, right? This represents the same thing. This is x plus 6 squared. That's taking the base and multiplying times itself twice. Right, x plus 6 squared. So this is the way that you're going to see this type of problem today, is with the squared. Okay, it means the same thing. Let me point out real quick what we got to make sure we don't do. Okay, and what we cannot do. Your mind, maybe not tonight, but by the time we get to the quiz or the test, your mind is going to see this and it's going to want to just distribute that squared sign. We cannot distribute the squared sign. We cannot distribute the squared. The reason why we cannot distribute the squared is because there's an addition problem. Okay, you cannot distribute a squared or an exponent when there's addition or subtraction inside. You can't do it. Okay, if you distributed that squared, you would be missing that entire middle term. Okay, you cannot do it. You could do it if it was just 6x. If there's no addition or subtraction in there, then sure, yeah, let's distribute it. But as soon as you throw an addition sign or subtraction sign in there, we can't do it anymore. We have to do what I'm about to show you. Okay, so make sure we know you're not distributing. Okay, very important there. And again, you might not think of it tonight. You might not be tempted to do it tonight, but put it in your notes so that when you go to study for the quiz, for the test, you remember not to do that. That is the #1 mistake that I see people do on that. All right, so we know we can rewrite it, or we can see it as that squared. All right, I'm going to give the general form over here on the right as just a plus b squared. Just a general a plus b. A could be anything, b could be anything. This is just a general format for it. And what we're gonna say here, if you look at our first example and where we got all three of these terms. The first term is just the first thing squared, right? We're taking x squared. The last term is just that squared, right? And again, I'll write the general form so we can see it a little bit better over there. But we're squaring the first one, we're squaring the last one. It's the middle one that becomes a little bit more work, not a lot. For the middle one, all I have to do, I gotta multiply those two things together and double it. X times 6 is 6x. I double it, I get 12x. Which should kind of make sense if you look at the four terms that you did while you were foiling. Those middle two terms are both 6x. So we're multiplying those two together to get that 6x, and there's two of them. That's why we double it to get that middle term. Okay? Yeah.
Like 2 or something there.
If the 2 was something different, then we wouldn't be able to do the shortcut.
Oh.
Yeah. Then we would have to rewrite it. You know, if it's a 3, you got 3 of them, then you got to solve it. Yeah, Jackson.
If they were the same basis, would you have to do?
Yeah, it's got to be the same exact thing in both sets of parentheses. Otherwise, we can't do it. Okay. For the general term here, the general form of it, make sure that we have this down. Once again, we are squaring the first term. We are squaring the second term. And then the middle, we're multiplying them together and timesing it by 2. So the middle is 2 times A times B. This is the general form that you're going to see in the textbook as well. A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. Once you get going on this, it becomes a lot quicker, a lot faster. It does become an actual shortcut. Like I said before, if you forget this shortcut, that's not a problem. Rewrite it out like this and FOIL it. Okay, it's going to work every single time. Any questions right now on our basics of this? Okay, this is called the square of a binomial. Square of a binomial. Called that because we are squaring a binomial. Do one together and then a couple on your own here. Let's go 3x plus 7 squared. So we talk through this again. And I'm going to look at this. I'm going to square the first term. What is 3x squared going to be? What is it? Not 3x to the second. 9x squared. I mean 9x squared because 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Okay, that's another common mistake is to forget to square that coefficient. So we got 9x squared there. What's 7 squared? 49, thank you. And then I'm going to multiply these two together. What's 3x times 7? Double it. 42x. Okay, multiply them together and then double it. Gets us that middle thing. Any questions on where these are coming from? All right, here's 2 to do. hopefully these are things you can do in your head. If you need a calculator, then by all means use it, that's fine. Talk to somebody about it. If you got something different, figure out who's right. Okay, real. Raise your hand for the first one. What are we doing for this first one here, Tom?
25x, second power plus 100x.
There you go. Yep. How about our second one here? Autumn.
16x squared plus 48x.
Do we agree? Something's off. Kenzie?
16x squared plus 64x plus 16.
Yeah. 4 times 8 is 32, not 24.
Oh.
There you go. Yep. 16x squared plus 64x plus 64. Now, on both of these, right, these numbers ended up being the same. That's not always the case. That's just because this is half of that, okay? So it's just a coincidence that that happened. That's not always the case, right? We see it over here.
Would that be like another?
Yeah, if you see it, if you recognize it, yeah. A shortcut to the shortcut. I like it. Okay, any questions on it? Great. So now what I want you to talk to somebody about is what's going to change if I make this a minus. Talk to the person next to you. What is going to change about my answer if you make this a minus? What do you think?
Well, no, the last one. No, because they're all. Yeah, it's hard.
All right, here we go. Here we go, Regina. What do you think is going to change here? What do you think is going to change? Audrey?
The last number was gonna stay positive, but.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The only thing that's going to change is that middle term is going to become negative. Because now that middle term is 5x times a negative 10, which is negative 50x. Double it is negative 100x. The last term stays positive because it's a negative 10 times a negative 10. And a negative times a negative stays a positive. So the only thing that's going to change, okay, and I want you to rewrite this time with a minus in there. The only thing that's going to change is that middle sign is going to become a negative. So go ahead and rewrite this. Let's make sure we have it down in our notes. Maybe not for tonight, but for when we look back at it later, we got to remember that. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and solve those two. Use that shortcut. Yeah.
But for the middle, when we do times two, because if we had it in the other form.
Yeah, it's times two. I say double it, it's times two.
Yeah, wouldn't it be negative?
No, because I'm timing it by 2, timing it by a positive 2. So I had that negative 50. Negative 50x times 2 is a negative 100.
Yeah.
Right? All right, solve those two, please. That second one, think about what we talked about during the warm up. We saw something similar to that. Okay, talk to somebody especially about that second one. Let's make sure we got that second one.
For the first one, I got 49 squared. Sixteen x minus 16 plus 4. Yes.
All right, here we go. Here we go. 7x minus 2 squared. What are we gonna get for that? Tim, what'd you get?
I got 39x squared minus 28x plus 4.
Okay, good. Do we agree? Yeah. Yes, good. How about for our second one? Here, Izzy?
16x to the power of 2 minus 16xy plus 4y to the power of 2.
Okay, do we agree with that? Yeah, that's it right there. So I square that 4x, I get 16x squared. 2y, negative 2y times negative 2y is positive 4y squared. Multiply them together, I get a negative 8x, double it, negative 16xy. There you go. Any questions on this? Okay, great. We got another shortcut we gotta talk about. Another one. Okay, what's different? What's different this time? It's positive and negative, right? You got different signs. So this is a different situation now. Yeah, one that's a plus, one that's minus. Notice that they're both still the same terms, the same numbers, x and 6. Just one has a plus, one has a minus in it. Okay, this is a new situation that we're looking at. Why don't you go ahead and FOIL that? Let's see what happens.
So.
So what happened to those middle two terms? They cancel each other out, right? So all we're left with is a binomial, x squared minus 36. This is absolutely correct. Okay, absolutely correct. So our shortcut, our general form here, we get a general form for it, a plus b minus b. All we have to do is square the first term, square the last term, and subtract it. Okay, square a, square b, and subtract it. Guys,
Why can't you just do negative 6 times 6 to get your answer?
you could, if you want to think about it that way, that's fine. Yep. Because it's going to give you that same thing. However you want to think about it. Okay, so this one definitely is a lot quicker. Okay, this is the one that's definitely a better shortcut. It's a lot faster. This one also, later on in the chapter, we're going to have to know how to do these shortcuts because we're going to be doing stuff with them later on in the chapter after the quiz, a whole bunch later. This one we can get away, like I said, we can get away with not knowing how to do this one necessarily. This one you have to know, or else later in the chapter you're going to be stuck. All right, we have to know this one. Okay. So let's look at an example here. Let's go. 2x minus 6, 2x plus 6. It does not matter if the plus or the minus is first, doesn't matter. Okay, we're doing the same exact thing. Square the first term, square the last, subtract it. It should be pretty quick. Raise your hand if you got the answer. Casey, what's our answer gonna be?
4x to the second minus.
There you go. 4x squared minus 36. 2x squared is 4x squared. 6 squared is 36. Subtract. Okay. Any questions on this shortcut? Right. It's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it. But again, we got to be able to recognize the setup. The setup is it's the same thing here and here. One's plus, one's minus. Again, doesn't matter which one is the plus and which one's the minus. Okay. We're gonna do one more problem. We got one more thing to look at, and then we're good. All right. Put your pencils down, calculators down, everything down. Okay. We're going to solve this problem without using a calculator and without writing out the long multiplication. Okay. We're going to solve this. We're going to solve this using what we just talked about. We're going to change this, even though there's no variables, right? We're going to change this into two binomials. What number is exactly between 28 and 32? 30. Thank you to the one person that got that right away. Between 28 and 32, the exact middle is 30, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this into 30 minus 2 and 30 plus 2. This looks exactly like what we just did, right? We got 1 plus 1 minus. So all we have to do to solve this is square the first term, square the second term, and subtract them. What's 30 squared?
90.
900. Close. You gotta have those 2 zeros on there, not just 1. 2 squared, of course, is 4. 900 minus 4, I sure hope you can do that. 896. All right. Now, hey, guys, I understand. I realize if you come across this problem, you're going to grab your calculator, you're going to type it in. I get it. I know. All right. But what you're going to see on the quiz or the test is you're going to see something like this, and you're going to have to show me that. Okay. You're going to have to show me that. If you don't show me that, you just give me 896. I'm going to mark it wrong. Okay. Because I'm going to specifically ask for this. You can use that calculator and check it. You can double check. That's fine. But I'm going to need to see this. That's yes.
What if one of them is an odd number?
If it's an odd number, you probably won't see that. We still could do it, right? But then you're going to have like a 0.5 there. It becomes a much harder problem. Yeah, right? So you're going to see stuff like this. Split it up into something we've seen already. And then be able to apply that shortcut. Any questions about it? All right, go ahead.